NATO to respond if Russia employs chemical weapons. If Vladimir Putin used chemical weapons on Ukraine, US Vice President Joe Biden said NATO would answer in kind. Mr. Biden responded to the question of whether a Kremlin-planned chemical assault would warrant a military response by saying, yes. A series of emergency sessions in Brussels brought him together with NATO, G7, and European leaders. That is, if Mr. Putin, whose troops are constantly losing soldiers, decides to use WMD. Questions about how leaders would react to a chemical assault in Ukraine came after a Western source said NATO would not engage militarily even if one occurred. Prevailing against direct military conflict with Russia, Trump has previously warned of World War III. And Mr. Biden disputed that ruling out military participation early in the crisis had strengthened Mr. Putin. No particular information indicated Mr. Putin was preparing to deploy chemical weapons, he said. President Obama's Tiger Team is examining the threshold for an American military response. They're also planning for a U.S. weapons convoy attack. In Brussels, Mr. Biden endorsed exclusion of Russia from the G20. If it could not be accomplished, he said that Ukraine should be asked to participate in meetings. He warned that helping the struggling Russian economy will have ramifications for Beijing. An emergency meeting approved the establishment of 4 additional combat units of 1,000 to 1,500 troops, up to 6,000 soldiers. They will join its 40,000 direct command forces in Europe, about 10 times the amount before the invasion. A fresh deployment of British soldiers to Bulgaria is planned. In Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, more soldiers will be deployed. The Bulgarian Prime Minister, Kirill Petkov, welcomed the show of strength by more than 150 British soldiers. American forces will provide a Stryker mechanized infantry company for a 1,000-man Bulgarian force. Operation Cabri includes 850 British soldiers stationed in Estonia. With NATO's heightened forward presence, the UK leads a multinational combat group. Also in Poland, under a US-led NATO deployment, 150 British soldiers. President Macron declared that France will send 4,050 more soldiers to frontline NATO nations and assist others strengthen air defenses. The 3,200 troops would include tanks and armored vehicles, Mr. Macron said. Estonia's defense forces will be reinforced by 350 personnel and fighter planes.